Story 1. The Grave of Mercy. Brown, the Vampire of Exeter, Rhode Island. In the late 19th century, in Exeter, Rhode Island, the Brown family was struck by a mysterious illness, what we now know as tuberculosis. First, George Brown's wife passed away, then his eldest daughter, Mary, followed by his younger daughter, Mercy Brown. Shortly after, George's son Edwin also fell ill, though he still clung to life. In desperation and fueled by local superstitions, the townspeople began to suspect that one of the Brown women had turned into a vampire, draining Edwin's life force. The belief in vampires was prevalent in rural New England at the time, and the only way to stop them was to dig up the corpse and burn the heart. On March 17, 1892, Mercy's body was exhumed from her grave. Though she had been buried for several months, her body was unusually well preserved. This, combined with the blood still found in her heart, convinced the villagers that she was indeed a vampire. They removed her heart, burned it, and mixed the ashes with water to create a potion for Edwin to drink in an attempt to save him. Despite this gruesome act, Edwin died shortly after, and the legend of Mercy Brown, the Vampire of Exeter, was born. Today, people visit Mercy's grave, and some claim to feel a strange presence nearby. Those who visit her tomb at night report feeling watched or hearing soft whispers in the wind. A few even claim to have seen a shadowy figure standing by her grave, vanishing just as quickly as it appeared. Story 2. The Grave of Thomas Busby and His Cursed Chair. In North Yorkshire, England, in 1702, Thomas Busby was sentenced to hang for the murder of his father-in-law. Legend has it that on the day of his execution, Busby requested a final meal at his favorite pub. After finishing, he stood up and cursed the chair he had been sitting in, declaring that anyone who sat in it would meet a quick and untimely death. For years after, locals believed that the curse was real. People who dared to sit in Busby's chair would soon die under mysterious or tragic circumstances. Soldiers during World War II, who frequented the pub, would challenge each other to sit in the chair, and many of them were killed in combat shortly after. Other visitors died in car crashes or sudden accidents. Eventually, the pub owner, fearing the chair's dark legacy, donated it to a local museum, where it now hangs high on the wall, out of reach of anyone who might sit in it. But even now, people visiting the Busby stoop chair report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread when standing too close, as if the curse still lingers, waiting for its next victim. Story 3. The Lady in the Graveyard. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, Illinois. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery in Illinois is one of the most haunted graveyards in the United States. Nestled in a secluded area surrounded by dense woods, it's an eerie place where the dead don't seem to rest. One of the most famous ghosts seen at Bachelor's Grove is the Lady in White, often referred to as the Phantom Woman. She's been seen by numerous witnesses, always dressed in a long, flowing white gown, sometimes carrying an infant wrapped in a blanket. The most unnerving part is that she is often seen sitting on a tombstone, staring vacantly into the distance, as though she is waiting for someone or something that never comes. Paranormal investigators and visitors alike have captured images of the Lady in White. A famous photograph taken in 1991 shows a transparent woman sitting on a gravestone, her face downcast and melancholic. No one remembers when the grave appeared, and there are no records of who she might have been in life. But those who visit her grave claim to feel an intense sorrow wash over them, as if the lady's grief is still present after all these years. The haunting of the Lady in White is just one of many strange phenomena at Bachelor's Grove. Ghostly lights, spectral animals, and even a phantom farmhouse have all been reported by those brave enough to visit the cemetery at night. But the lady remains the most haunting figure, forever bound to her grave, endlessly mourning. Story 4. The Weeping Woman of Stull Cemetery, Kansas. Stull Cemetery, located in a tiny village in Kansas, is rumored to be one of the 7 gateways to hell. This remote and nearly forgotten graveyard has been the center of dark legends and eerie sightings for decades. One of the most terrifying tales involves the Weeping Woman, a ghost said to wander the cemetery at night, crying out for her lost children. According to legend, the Weeping Woman is the spirit of a mother who was struck by unimaginable tragedy. It's said that both of her children died in a house fire, and in her grief, she wandered into the cemetery never to return. People claim to see her kneeling at graves, weeping uncontrollably, while others have heard her ghostly cries in the dead of night echoing through the tombstones. One account tells of a man who was driving past Stoll Cemetery late at night when he saw a figure in white standing by the cemetery gates. Thinking it was a woman in need, he pulled over and asked if she needed help. As he approached, the figure vanished into thin air. He felt an overwhelming cold wash over him, and in the distance, he could still hear the sound of weeping. The weeping woman is just one of many frightening stories tied to Stoll Cemetery. Visitors claim to have seen shadowy figures, strange lights, and even encountered phantom hands reaching out from the graves. It's no wonder the cemetery has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. Story 5. The Ghost Bride of Resurrection Cemetery, Chicago. Resurrection Cemetery in Chicago is home to one of the most famous ghost stories in America, the legend of Resurrection Mary. The story dates back to the 1930s, when a young woman named Mary was supposedly killed in a car accident after a night of dancing at the nearby O. Henry Ballroom. Ever since, people have reported seeing a blonde-haired woman wearing a white party dress, wandering the roads near Resurrection Cemetery. Drivers tell the same chilling story. They see the young woman hitchhiking on Archer Avenue late at night. When they offer her a ride, she gives them directions to the cemetery, but as soon as they reach the gates, she disappears. One of the most famous encounters happened in the 1970s when a man picked up a young woman outside the ballroom. She asked to be taken to Resurrection Cemetery. When the man arrived at the gates, the woman got out, walked toward the cemetery, and vanished before his eyes. Shocked, the man went to the police, but no explanation was ever found. Some believe that Mary is still searching for a way home, while others think she's trapped in a cycle of reliving her tragic death. To this day, people visiting Resurrection Cemetery claim to see her ghost, lingering near the gates or on the road nearby, forever seeking a ride to her final resting place. Story 6. The Voodoo Queen's Restless Grave, St. Louis Cemetery, New Orleans. St. Louis Cemetery. Number 1 in New Orleans is the final resting place of the infamous Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. Marie Laveau was a powerful figure in the 19th century, known for her spiritual practices, which blended Catholicism and voodoo. After her death in 1881, she was buried in an unmarked tomb in the city's oldest cemetery. However, her spirit is said to still linger. Legend has it that if you visit her grave and draw 3 X's on the tomb, while spinning around 3 times and making a wish, Marie Laveau might grant you a favor. But if you disrespect her or fail to properly honor her memory, her spirit will curse you. Many people who have visited Marie Laveau's tomb claim to have felt an eerie presence. Some report hearing chanting or seeing shadowy figures moving through the cemetery at night. Others claim to have had bad luck or illness follow them after visiting her grave without showing proper respect. One chilling story involves a woman who, out of curiosity, went to Marie Laveau's grave and scratched 3 X's onto the tomb. After making a wish, she felt a sudden chill but brushed it off. That night, she woke to the sound of whispers and found the marks on her arm resembling the X's she had drawn. She fell ill shortly after and was convinced that she had angered the Voodoo Queen. Marie Laveau's legacy remains strong in New Orleans, and her tomb continues to be a site of pilgrimage for those seeking spiritual aid. However, visitors are warned, show respect, or you may incur the wrath of the Voodoo Queen herself.